Welcome. I'm Paula Strupeck Gardner, and I'm honored to guide you in a gentle practice of yoga today. I invite you to choose a place to sit, either in a chair or on the floor, based on how you're feeling right here, right now. A chair is just as good as the floor, and the floor is just as good as a chair. And I'd like to begin by sitting for just a few breaths so that we can center ourselves, connect with our breath, and cultivate our awareness of how we're feeling, what we're feeling, where we're feeling it, of mind, body, spirit. So I invite you, wherever you're sitting, and I'm going to stay on the chair today, to become aware of your pelvis, specifically of your pubic bone, that big bone that's right here and holds the thighs and supports all the organs in the rest in through here. And I invite you to tilt the top of your pubic bone ever so slightly forward so that you can feel the whole front of your body feel like it's free to lift up. Either on the floor or in your chair, I invite you to experience that freeing sensation. And line up your nose and your chin with your belly button. Close your eyes or soften your gaze and just allow yourself to feel the sensations of your breath as it comes into the body and as it comes out of the body. And you're just noticing, not judging, not criticizing, not comparing, not shaming, simply becoming the observer of you breathing. And now we'll begin to move with the breath. I invite you to begin by placing your right hand on the seat of the chair or your fingertips on the floor beside you. Inhale, your left hand up, palm faces the midline of your head. And when you exhale, bring the right ribs very slightly forward and float very gently over towards your right side, supporting yourself with your hand on the chair or your fingertips on the floor. And feeling your breath, visualizing your breath the full length of the left side of your body. On your next exhale, bring your navel in towards your spine, lift yourself up, let your left hand float down to the chair or the floor. Inhale your right hand up. When you exhale, bring your left rib slightly forward and float gently over toward the left side. On your next exhale, bring your navel to your spine, come back up to the center, and let your hand float down. So a word about sitting on the chair. If your feet are too far away from the floor, if your feet are not flat on the floor, then I encourage you to take a yoga block or 2 shoe boxes that are of the same height and place one under each foot. It's really important that you feel solidly connected to the earth. Okay. I'm not going to use those today because I'm sitting forward in my chair. Some days I need to. So always be aware of how you're feeling right here, right now, because things change. So I invite you now to bring your hands, if you're on the floor, bring your hands to your knees or your shins. And in the chair, bring your hands to the tops of your thighs. When you breathe in, sit forward of your sit bones. And that means the top of your pubic bone is coming forward. And when you exhale, roll back and sit behind your sit bones. And just do this a couple of times, just to feel the rhythm of your breath and to feel the rolling sensation of bringing the pubic bone forward and back. And when you finish the one you're on, come forward. And inhale, bring your hands up over your head. When you exhale, bring your hands behind you, arms long and strong, palms face each other as though you're holding on to a giant beach ball. Feel the top of your pubic bone come slightly forward and feel that sensation of the whole front of your body opening up. If it feels good, you can even lift your chin just to feel that opening continue into your jaw. On your next exhale, bring yourself back to your center. Pause right here for a breath in and a breath out. And on your next inhale, reach your hands up into the sky. When you exhale, tilt the top of your pubic bone slightly forward. Let your left buttock and the left side of your pelvis come slightly forward, and let your upper body follow by turning to the right. And then let your hands come down. Your right hand behind you, your left hand in front of you. It can be here, it can be on your leg. Where you don't want to be is here. So if you're seated on the floor, let me just join you there. If you're seated on the floor and you've twisted and you want to put this left hand on your right leg, but to do that you have to do this, I encourage you to come back to the center. Find your twist that allows you to open up rather than cave over and through, and just don't go so far. There's nothing sacred about placing your hands on the floor. There is everything sacred about honoring you. And so wherever you are in your gentle twist, let's stay there for a few breaths and feel how the breath is working its way into your body, telling you you're worth the work. Inhale, reach up, 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 come back to the center and pause. When you exhale, we'll do the opposite side. Tilt the top of your pubic bone forward. Let your right knee, thigh, buttock come slightly forward, and let yourself turn gently to the left. Following the pelvis allows us to let the body move the way it's designed to move. We follow our natural rhythms that way. On your next inhale, come back to the center. When you exhale, let your hands come down. So now, we'll do what is often referred to as the number 4 pose, which is bringing the right ankle onto the left thigh. If in order to do this, you're here, I strongly recommend that you put your foot down, separate your feet as wide as you comfortably can, and we'll do the pose this way. It's really important that you honor your body as it is right here, right now. So here or here, depending on how your body feels, we're looking and feeling into the right hip, buttock, lower back area. Close your eyes if that helps you visualize, or soften your gaze if that works for you. And imagine that your breath is a broom. And every time you exhale, you sweep away the anger, the resentment, the sorrow, the fear, the grief, the hatred. All of those things tend to settle in that part of our body, and no emotion is bad. It's what we do with them that matters. And so here we have an opportunity to let the body help us release some of the tension and tightness that comes from holding on to those emotions. And while you're here, let's shake hands with our feet. Now, if you're in this position, this is easier for you. You start with your left hand with the pinky finger, and you place it in between the pinky toe and the toe next to that. And then each finger goes in between the toes. Only go as far as you can into the webbing between the toes before discomfort or pain. We stay away from pain. If you've never done this before, there can be a lot of tightness there. So even just resting your fingers between the toes can be enough. If you're here with your feet on the floor, then what you would do is, just for the moment, you would bring a piece of fabric, a towel, a washcloth, a shirt, a scarf, in between your toes, and you kind of weave it out, in and out, so that there's something between your toes, and then you put your foot back on the floor. Wherever you go, humor me on this one. I invite you to close your eyes, and I invite you to visualize the space between your toes and to feel that space softening. And as it softens, expanding to receive the fingers or the fabric. Just stay here for a few breaths, noticing how each subsequent exhale allows you to experience a little more softening. And now we'll release the hand or the fabric. We'll come back to the center. So if your leg is lifted, place it on your foot on the floor, and we'll do the other side. So you may notice that this is easier or harder than the other side. You may notice that you can open your left leg a little bit more than the right leg. Do what feels comfortable for you. And we'll pause here, softening the gaze or closing the eyes and visualizing the breath as a broom. And now this time sweeping the left buttock area, the left hip, the left lower back. Sweeping away the resentment, the anger, those things that tend to stick. Each exhale, clearing out, making space for you. And when you're ready, bringing your right fingers between the toes of your left foot, starting with the pinkies because it's easier that way, trust me on that, or experiment and find out for yourself. Going into the webbing only as far as you can. We're not going to any edges today. Or taking the fabric and weaving it so that you go in and out between the toes. A little bit of fabric between each toe. Placing that foot back on the floor. Or if it's on your thigh, letting it be there. And now close your eyes and visualize the space between your toes, softening, releasing, relaxing, welcoming the fingers or the fabric. And letting yourself breathe and be here for the next few breaths, allowing yourself to receive the softness. And on your next exhale, taking the fabric from between your toes or withdrawing your fingers and letting the foot come back down to the floor. And we'll just pause right here for a breath in and a breath out. And on your next exhale, gently turn your chin toward your right shoulder. Breathe in. When you exhale, bring your chin back to the center and then slowly turn it toward the left shoulder. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, bring your chin back to the center and over to the right again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Come back to center and to the left. And you can continue to do this for as long as it feels good for you to do that. And you can even pause the video if you feel like doing that so you can keep going. Or when you inhale, you can draw your shoulders to your ears. When you exhale, you can let them float gently down. Inhale your shoulders to your ears. Exhale, let them float gently down. And you may notice that each time you exhale, your shoulders release a little bit more down, a little bit lower, a little bit farther away from your ears, or not. Just notice what you notice. This time, inhale, your shoulders to your ears. When you exhale, roll your shoulders back and down. Inhale them forward and up. Exhale them back and down. Inhale them forward and up. And exhale them back and down. And again, if you like, if this feels really good and you want to keep going, pause the video and go for as long as it feels great. And then if you want to, you can also reverse your circles. See how that feels. Just play with the poses. Play in the poses. And now let's pause. We'll come to a standing position. Hopefully you'll be able to see my whole person here. And let's begin by placing our hands on our sacrum, that triangular shaped bone at the base of the spine. Keep your hands here just to help you remember, and stand the way you usually stand. And just see how this feels on your back, on your knees, your legs, your feet. And now step your feet together and see how this feels. Do you feel balanced? Do you feel unstable? Do you feel kind of scrunched in the back? Let's step our feet apart a little bit farther. See how that feels. And remember that from day to day, the body changes. And so it's always good to check in and start with where you are right here, right now. Just to feel, let's step our feet a little wider and see how that feels on your lower back in particular. And now bring your feet to where it felt the most comfortable for you. And this is the foundation of our mountain pose, Tadasana. And I would invite you to look at the edges of your feet, the outer edges. Chances are good that your feet are in some configuration more or less like this. This is how we humans tend to stand and walk, like ducks. So I'm inviting you today to line up the outer edges and the big toes so that they're parallel to each other, meaning they draw lines that never intersect. And this likely feels pigeon-toed. If it does, you're probably in the right place. Never fear. You're lining up the bones. And when we line up the bones, the muscles don't have to work so hard, which then means that we have more energy to do what we want to do, need to do, love to do, etc. So line up the outer edges so they're parallel, the big toes so they're parallel. And this may feel really weird for the first 1,001 times that you do it. It's okay. You are worth the work. You're worth the discomfort in this case. And if you have something, anything that impairs or inhibits your ability to do this, then do the best you're able to do. Your body, you are the sacred one. And that's what we're here to honor. So in this position, we have our feet aligned. We're standing in a way that honors our sacrum. I'd like you to become aware of your pelvis and very gently tilt the top of your pubic bone forward. Not a lot forward, just a little forward. And notice the release and the relief that you experience in your lower back. Just let yourself be there for a few breaths, maybe comparing how you typically stand versus this. And let me invite you to try this when you're standing in line in the grocery store or standing and talking to friends. Become aware of how you're standing and intentionally and mindfully place yourself in a position that's going to nourish your body. So let me move this chair and invite you to step your right foot straight back. Now, for those of you who have practiced yoga before, even once or twice or for a while, you may have been taught to line up the front heel with the back arch. And I'm inviting you today to try this because I've discovered that this really helps my lower back. And aren't we meant to do yoga to help ourselves rather than to fit into a mold that someone else created? So in this position, very slightly turn your front toes, your left toes out, and your back toes are turned slightly out. Inhale, reach your hands up over your head, palms face each other, and when you exhale, bend your front knee. Check your knee. Make sure that it's pointing towards your toes. Make sure that it only goes as far as your ankle, because that's the safest place for your knee to be. These muscles tend to be among the weaker muscles in the human body unless you're an elite athlete. So we need to check. We're not criticizing or judging. We're checking, we're aligning, we're working with where we are here and now. Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. Vira is the Sanskrit root that means strength, courage. We exercise the courage to come here to cultivate our strength, whatever strength you might need. So feel your breath, feel your strength, savor your strengths. And on your next exhale, let your back foot turn more out. Turn just your upper body from the lowest ribs up over to the right and reach your arms out into a T. Now, if you want to bend your knee more, walk your back foot back more. But the same alignment principles are in place. The knee points toward the toes are slightly out, the knee stays at or behind the ankle. Reach your fingertips away from each other. Take your gaze over the middle finger of your front hand, and without moving your feet, hug your heels toward each other and feel the strength in your legs. Savor your strength. Feel your breath. Feel where it's coming into your body, where it's going out. Feel how it's bathing the internal organs. Feel how it's supporting you in your work. On your next inhale, bring your right hand to rest gently on your right leg, your left hand up into the sky. Keep your left knee bending. Breathe in, and when you exhale, come back to Virabhadrasana 2 or Warrior 2. Breathe in. When you exhale, turn your back foot more forward. You can even shift your foot so that it's a little bit closer to your left foot, and bring your hands up over your head. We're back to Virabhadrasana 1 or Warrior 1. Breathe in, reach up. Breathe out, let your hands float down. Step your right foot forward to be level and even with your left. Look at your feet. Place them as far apart as you need to for your sacrum to feel comfortable. And now line up the outer edges and the big toes so they're parallel to each other. Feel the top of your pubic bone tilt slightly forward. Take your gaze straight ahead out at the horizon. And now close your eyes or soften your gaze and let yourself feel your breath. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk, wrote, "I am a mountain, strong, tall, imperturbable, rigorous, alive. Breathing out, I feel stable. The waves of emotion can never carry me away." Feel this in your body, mind, spirit. It gives me goosebumps. So let's do the other side by stepping the left foot straight back, turning the toes of the right foot just slightly out, making sure that the toes of the back foot are slightly more out than the front foot. And then inhale, reach your hands up, and when you exhale, bend your front knee, check to make sure that it's pointing towards your toes, that it only goes as far as your ankle. And you can, if you'd like, take your gaze up toward the sky for your Virabhadrasana 1 or Warrior 1. We'll breathe in here. When we exhale, turn the left toes a little more out. Make sure your right knee keeps pointing toward your toes. Turn just your upper body to the left. Reach your arms to a T so your hands are just below shoulder height, and take your gaze over the middle finger of your front hand. Your right hand, I think. Feel your breath. Without moving your feet, hug your heels toward each other and savor your strength. On your next inhale, left hand rests gently on your left leg. Your right hand goes up to the sky. Your right knee stays bending. Breathe in here again. And when you exhale, come back to Virabhadrasana 2. Hug your heels toward each other. Breathe in, reach your hands up, shift your back foot so now the toes are more forward. Check your knee, your front knee. Breathe in, and when you exhale, let your hands come down to your sides. Step your left foot forward to be even with your right. Adjust the stance so it honors your sacrum. Adjust the outer edges and the big toe so they draw parallel lines. Feel your pelvis. Let your body express its wisdom. Get out of the way is what I always remind myself. Take your gaze straight ahead. Soften your gaze or close your eyes and feel the words of Thich Nhat Hanh in your body. Feel yourself strong, tall, imperturbable, rigorous, alive. The waves of emotion can never carry me away. And now I invite you to do the pose that I do at the beginning of every one of my days. I'm usually at a counter making my coffee, waiting for it to brew. bubble up. I drink espresso. So I have a counter right there. You can do this on the back of a chair. You can do it at a wall. But I encourage you to do half dog instead of the full downward dog. It's just a gentler, and it's a different experience. And certainly if you have issues with your hands, your wrists, or your shoulders, this is the great version for you to begin with. So step your feet back away from whatever you've got your hands on, and separate your feet wider. Point your big toes toward each other. If you're able to straighten your back, then this is a great place for you to be. If, however, when you do this, you're rounded like this, then I invite you to bend your knees and look, my back went straight of its own accord. So let that be your starting place. You may notice over the course of several breaths or several months or several years that eventually you're able to straighten your legs and maintain that, we'll call it an L shape. I'm going to move this, put my hands on this table so perhaps you can see better. So we're right here, right now. If your back is straight, draw your lowest ribs in. Feel your lower back round ever so slightly. And just savor the deliciousness of lengthening your spine, front, sides, and back. You can see why this is a really nice way to start your day. Feel your breath. Check in. You can move your neck from side to side if it feels good to do that. As you become aware of the letting go, the releasing in your legs or your back, you can begin, if you're here, to straighten a little bit, or you may notice that your legs have already straightened a little bit. Remember, always to honor the body you're in today, in this moment. Not the one you always wanted, not the one you had 20 years ago, but right here, right now. And on your next inhale, you can bring your hands to your thighs, bend your knees, and just come straight up to a standing position, back to your mountain. We'll stay here for a breath in and a breath out, or several breaths if that's better for you, to give yourself some time to settle into the version of the pose that best supports you. And now I invite you to either have a seat or to lie down on the ground. If you're going to do the restorative practice that follows, you can use that as your Shavasana. If you're ending this practice now, I encourage you to take at least 5 to 10 minutes to simply sit and breathe. Sit in stillness so that your mind, body, spirit can integrate all the work that you've done so far, all the play and the exploring that you experienced in your mind, body, spirit. If you have any questions, always feel free to ask. Many blessings.